I stood and watched in horror as they crashed into the towers. They tried to take our freedom away. And right down from the mall, the mighty fortress would not fall. Our freedom again they tried to steal away. America shall rise up, America shall stand, our beacon, our fortress and our light. Despite our heartfelt sorrow, a shining bright tomorrow, freedom shall not fail. Cloud of darkness calling from symbols that have fallen, a voice they tried to silence in that day. A flight into the morning, a path turns evil's way. Heroes all who fought that we may say. America shall rise up, America shall stand, a beacon, our fortress and our light. Despite our heartfelt sorrow, shining bright tomorrow, freedom shall not fail. Brave souls were running forward as heaven's call lifts upward, as those who cherish life made their stay. Mother's tears are falling, and brothers' gifts keep calling to all that we hold precious in these days. America shall rise up, America shall stand, a beacon, our fortress and our light.
My name is Gordon Williams. I was based on the 86th floor of World Trade Center Tower 1, working for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. That morning I came in early and just taking care of some business, checking emails, making a few phone calls, and that's when my life changed.
Freedom shall not fail.
I had just finished sending an email to my friends on the Imagion team, and as soon as I hit the send button, the building started to shake violently, and at the same time there was this very low but low-pitched rumbling noise, and sitting in my seat, I could feel the building starting to sway back and forth. And maybe it was exaggerated because I was on the 86th floor, but I felt as if I was on a boat. As I stepped out of my office, I ran into the first of the other three members of the project team that I'm on. And it was Nick. He recently came to the Port Authority from the New York City Fire Department. Together, he and I started walking around the floor looking for any of the few other people who were on the 86th floor office of the Port Authority. We ran into Jean, who's the project manager of the project. She's been with the Port Authority for a number of years, and she was actually there for the 1993 bombing. In addition to Jean, we soon ran into one other person who was an administrative assistant, and then we ran into someone who was just a visitor. As we continued to make our way around the 86th floor, looking for people, looking for answers, we came across what turned out to be an elevator, which had been knocked out of its passage, out of its shaft, and into the receptionist area of the 86th floor. And that's when we really started to realize that this was something very tragic and dramatic. We also started to notice that there was smoke coming into the building, and we started to think about whether or not we should be trying to leave the building or waiting for the fire department or some other authority to come and advise us as to what to do. While we're trying to decide as to whether or not we should be making our way down on our own or if we should wait for the fire department, the smoke is just getting thicker and thicker. And by the time we were in the office and looking out the window and seeing what was going on, we came to the realization that this is definitely something that we can't wait around for. We started thinking about, no, here's another decision. Should we break a window and try to get some fresh air in before the smoke gets too bad for us to bear? I happened to find a ball peen, a hammer, and as soon as I found that and I said, hey everyone, look what I found, everyone said, well, great, let's break the window. But that's when Nick, again, with his experience, came in and raised a very valid point that it's just as possible that the smoke might come towards us if we break a window as, if it might go away from us. Took the hammer, went over to a conference room that was on the other side of the building, and very, cautiously took the hammer and Nick broke the window. And we were happy to see that as soon as a lot of air came in, the smoke was pushed back. So we, got a couple good breaths of air and went back to the rest of the group and told them to come over, come get some fresh air. And they all joined us. And I guess in that, as the smoke was clearing, our minds started to clear as well a little bit. And I decided that, well, let's go and try that exit again to see if it's cleared up. The stairs were just shadows, a little bit of light coming in probably from emergency lights in the stairwells. There's pockets of smoke coming from all sorts of cracks and crevices that weren't there before, and a waterfall, just water coming down the stairs from I don't know where, but it's just flowing down the stairwell. But definitely wasn't the most inviting scene, but it was the only way out. So I called the rest of the group and I told them that the smoke's cleared, and everyone just mutually decided we were going to start making our way down. I guess based on lessons learned from the 93 bombing, the stairwells had been redesigned for probably mass evacuations. They had positioned lots of emergency lighting in there and fire extinguishers of different types and first aid kits, oxygen tanks were dispersed on various levels of the stairwells. We were all just, just of one mind in getting downstairs, but maintaining an order. I guess it was really, again, just a benefit of having the people there who had been through the first incident in '93. We took a breather on the 50th floor. It was still a hectic scene, but it was a lot better than where we were coming from. And we started to think and sort of strategize as to how we were going to continue forward. And we started doing things like getting rid of our, anyone who had a bag with them, leave the bag behind. I took my necktie off, and whoever needed oxygen, we had gotten, and we found an oxygen canister in one of the stairwells. Everyone got some oxygen, and we decided, no, okay, we're ready, let's continue down. So from after that break, we had a lot of energy. We started making a faster pace down the stairs till the point where we start to see the firemen are there, and they're actually heading up while we're heading down. The stairs have been partitioned, divided into two columns, where one's for people going down, one going up. And everyone is, definitely glad to see the firemen, but at the same time, we're thinking to ourselves that, well, they're here on the 30th floor. We are certainly glad that back while we were up on the 86th, we decided to go ahead and start making our way downstairs. We bought ourselves at least 20 valuable minutes to make some progress downwards. By the time I'm down to the main lobby, the first floor, we've lost Jean along the way. She's separated along with some of the other members of the group. Nick decided to stay with the firemen and the EMTs to render assistance where needed. So at this point, I'm moving on alone. So I reached down to the main floor, which is deceptively peaceful. There's a lot of glass windows on that floor, so the sunlight is coming in and it looks very bright, and coming from what we just came through, it looks very, encouraging and cheery. But at the same time, I'm running into the facility management, who are there with their hard hats and telling people that, no, don't exit on this floor. You have to go down the escalators down to the floor below that one, which leads to the mall and the primary exits and the mass transit access. And as I'm making my way down the escalator, which is stopped, it's just a stairs, it's just basically stairs now, I noticed that, they're quite right about not leaving through that courtyard, because there are flaming chunks of metal falling from the upper floors of the towers and hitting the courtyard. And obviously just not the safe route to take. Luckily, the firemen are there, and everyone is, still listening to their direction, and they tell me to, as I'm walking through the exit, to make sure I stay close to the walls. And, I remember thinking to myself, I wonder why they say stay close to the walls, but I just did it anyway. And I was glad I listened to them, because it's at that point I probably reached a few yards into the mall from the exit to Building 1, where I start to hear a noise comparable only to the noise that I heard back at about 8:45 that morning. And it's getting louder, and it's growing, and it's getting louder, and it's like every loud noise you've ever heard multiplied by 100. I started thinking to myself, whatever that is, it's not good. I need to find somewhere to shelter, because there's no exit close enough to where I am for me to escape. I just need to find some cover. That's the best I can do. And this incredible force, this blast, comes racing through the passageway of the mall. And it was like being in the barrel of a cannon. And I was expecting the glass around me to just shatter and slice me up, but I was still until the noise subsided, and I started to get up and open my eyes, and then I couldn't figure out if my eyes were open or not, because it was, I realized my eyes were open, but it was just so completely dark in there. There was a total absence of light. You know, I got really fortunate, you know, when I started to run into other people who managed to survive that collapse of, you know, of building two. And, you know, it's total darkness, and you're hearing people, you know, asking for help. No one's screaming, because I guess everyone's as tired as I am. You're too tired to scream. And then you know, I phone someone. Anytime you don't know who it is, you just feel a hand, you just take the hand and you start walking, you know, I just kept walking to where I think I remember an exit is. And, you know, people are just, it's kind of like forming a chain of people. And the few of us who were together, we ran into, we saw some lights, you know, obviously we must have been very close because the smoke was so, and dust was so dense that you had to be very close in order to see these very bright lights. And it was the flashlights of a few firemen who were still in there. And if you know how bright those firemen's lights are, you know, the fact that I could only see them when I was a few feet away lets you know how dark, how bad it was in there. And, you know, not even the firemen really knew exactly the way out, you know. We got lucky, you know, or this little band of people who, you know, we couldn't even see each other's faces. We just heard each other's voices. One of us, you know, happened to be someone who had been with the clients, with the Port Authority for long enough to know how to find their way out of the building, even in total darkness. And he basically said, you know, with all the confidence in the world, he told the fireman, "I know how to get us out of here." Fireman said, "You know, you sure?" He said, "Yes." And we just followed him out. And he led us, we just held hands, and he led us to an exit. It was just light. It was, you know, we just saw some light and we headed for it. It's like, as tired as I was, you find the energy when you see that light and you head out the door. I'm on VC Street and I start walking up the street and not even looking back, just keep walking, and that's when I start to hear a rumble just like the one I just escaped from. Debris of an unimaginable scale just blasting its way by you, you know. And if I was standing in the path of that, you know, I would have been knocked to God knows where. So I'm sitting on the bus, trying to catch my breath. I'm tired. I'm filthy, and I'm just waiting for the bus to leave. And I notice that up at the front of the bus, there's a woman talking to the bus driver, and she's asking the bus driver if the bus is going to Queens. And that's when I realized that, you know, after what I just went through, I'm back in the real world. When it comes down to it, you know, sometimes you do only have yourself to rely on, but it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. If, you know, it would have been good if, you know, we could have just stayed on the 86th and waited for the fire department, but, you know, that just wasn't an option. I think that a lot of assumptions are made as to how safe things are. And you can put safety measures in place, but you have to make sure that the people who it applies, who are going to use it, know how to use it, and know where it is. One of the things that always comes to us is that, we should have fire drills. We should have some sort of practices, some sort of dry runs, on a regular basis, just to make sure that everyone knows what to do. I just really, really got lucky. But the thing is, you can't always rely on luck. Why should you rely on luck when you can plan? You can't plan everything. There's no such thing as perfect knowledge, but you can definitely cover the fundamentals, the important things, and with that foundation, a lot of other things will fall into place. It's definitely a situation that requires planning and forethought. It made all the difference to my survival.
Freedom shall not fail.